Hi, my name is Joel, and I work for Essex Cheese, and I manage our education and our marketing programs. So happy to talk to you today about our wonderful feta made on the island of Lesbos in Greece called Tastanis feta, or as we like to call it, Essex Feta. To share with you some really important information today about the history of feta, its PDO status, and then specifically about this wonderful feta that you're trying from our company, and the people who make it, and the animals that help contribute to it. So let's get started.
So, feta dates back to the 8th century BC, believe it or not, in Homer's Odyssey. Polyphemus, lovingly known as the Cyclops, one eyed monster, was actually a cheesemaker. And there's a very descriptive section of the book where it explains the things he liked to do in the mountains besides scare people. He was a shepherd, taking care of sheep and goats, practicing transhumance, letting them graze along the mountainsides of all the wild herbs and flowers and bushes that grew. He hand milked them every morning and evening. And then what they really observed when the princes found him and his men was these blocks of white cheese bobbing in baths of whey. Sounds a lot like the feta recipe today. But it's also the ultimate commodity cheese. Or is it? Everyone seems to make it from all sorts of different places. So, what is actually feta? Which countries are allowed to make it? What kind of milk can be used? What are the rules about aging? Should you, as a retailer, sell feta? Why or why not? And if you're going to, what's the best way to handle the cheese? So, there are 6 regions where feta is allowed to come from. Feta comes from actually an Italian word, feta, F-E-T-T-A, which means slice. It came into the Greek language in the 1600s. So it probably refers to the fact that there are these blocks of cheese where you'd have slabs or slices of it sitting on your table. Originally, this PDO was established in 2002, so they were a couple of centuries behind taking care of this. But the rest of the world really fought this, mostly Denmark, because there was lots of money to be made in feta, right? Everyone wants this on their salad and their puff pastries. So it took actually till 2008 till the PDO was finalized, and only 6 regions in Greece are allowed to make this cheese: Macedonia, Thrace, Epirus, Thessalia, Central Greece, the Peloponnese, and lastly, Lesvos, which you can see over here is the most eastern Greek island. Any other cheeses have to be called Greek style cheese or salad cheese if they don't follow into these different rules. 80% sheep's milk. The only other animal allowed is goat's milk, but up to 100% sheep's milk is allowed. It can be raw or pasteurized, and it has to be aged for a minimum of 2 months in brine. Additionally, there's some other rules, mostly having to do with no coloring agents added in order to disguise its natural color. But for the most part, it's a pretty simple PDO. What really highlights is why Greece is the homeland to feta. Of the 30% of all endemic species of flora in Europe are located in Greece. Meaning that even if you took the same animals and the same man and took him to Albania or took him to Romania or France or any other place and made cheese from their milk, it would not be the same purely because of the diet of these animals. There's a unique terroir to these locations, which is why they fought for the PDO rights, the protected designation of origin, feta. So our cheese that you're tasting comes from the island of Lesvos, as I said, the most eastern Greek island. Why is Lesvos on the list of PDO approved cheeses? No other island made the cut. Well, it's an incredibly unique landscape, home to 2 very unique geological trademarks. On the eastern side, you have lots and lots of olive trees. The soil is very fertile for this. However, that's not great for cheese making because if sheep graze on anything that comes from olive trees, the milk becomes very bitter. So conveniently, on the western side of the island, it's incredibly volcanic soil from histories of ancient dormant volcanoes, which means it's highly mineralized and makes for an incredibly diverse and beautiful flora for all these sheep to graze on. Additionally, Lesvos is home to the Lesbian sheep. What also sets Lesvos apart is its own bay called the Bay of Kaloni, which nearly cuts the island in half. But because of its shape, it's like a bathtub. which has continual tides coming in and out, refining the sea salt, making it have 5 times the NaCl content of Maldon sea salt or many other similar dried sea salts, which that means you don't have additional flavors that can really augment anything in the cheese. It makes for really clean cheese, letting the milk flavor shine through. And then the island's got its own sheep, the Lesbian sheep, which are really highly sought after because they're incredibly rustic mountain climbers. So they're perfect for this landscape and they can get to all of the beautiful flora no matter where it's located. So we have the Tastanis family who are located in the village of Agra, only 1,000 people with 1,500 sheep, and they are the only cheesemaker. They've been there for 3 generations and dating back to their original great grandfather who came to Astoria, Queens in New York and opened up a diner. Pretty cliche, I know, but that diner did pay for them to have land and for them to build their own creamery and make cheese using the milk from their own village. Tastanis Paniotis, seen here on the left, is really particular about the shepherds that he works with. While there are many shepherds who are in the surrounding area, he chooses to only work about 2/3 of them because of the high quality, consistent milk they're able to give. He's also really particular in making sure that the shepherds graze only in the areas right on the bay, which is only 5 kilometers from the village. That means that the salt flavors are in the soil and therefore in the milk. And it really makes his cheese more special compared to cheeses even made on other parts of the island. So, what sets the Testanis feta apart? Well, it's the decisions that Paniotis makes. He chooses to reflect the terroir of their village. He chooses to work with only the shepherds in his area who deliver the best quality milk, the most consistent, the best sweet, delicious, succulent flavors, showing off the great terroir of this volcanic caldera that they live in. He chooses to use the salt located only 5 kilometers away in the Bay of Caloni in making his brine. It only seems natural considering that this is in the very soil that the sheep are grazing after and complements this incredibly clean, bright flavor. And then additionally, when he ages it for the minimum time of 2 months, up to a year, he uses his salt, but he refreshes that brine every single week in order to make sure that it stays really fresh and that you don't get any intensely acidic flavors from too much whey in the brine, but also you don't get too many gamey, lamby flavors. All those wildflowers growing, all of the chamomile, all the thyme, all the oregano, all of those things would be lost if it was covered up by those flavors. So, how should you eat feta? Everyone in America really likes it on a salad, maybe a gyro if you're in New York City on the sidewalk. But how else can you eat it? Well, eat it like the Greeks do. There's a reason why, per capita, it's the #1 cheese consumed in all of Greece. That's because there's many ways to enjoy it. Cut to order in brine, as you see here in our bowls, and enjoyed, which is drizzled in olive oil and oregano. You can grill it in terracotta pots and serve it with fresh roasted vegetables like peppers, tomatoes, and onions with a drizzle of balsamic. And they can also be beautiful puff pastries. But really, the list goes on. The point is that feta is not just for your salads. It's a beautiful slab, feta, a slice that you put on the table and can mix with all of your beautiful Mediterranean dishes. How do you take care of feta? It's messy, it's wet, I don't know what to do with it. Well, we've developed the recipe for the brine according to how Paniotis makes it, so that you can make it no matter what situation you're in, using Morton kosher salt or some sea salt that you have. We have specific recipes for you, but we recommend 3 to 5 tablespoons of salt per 32 ounces and that you refresh the brine every 10 days, just as Padiotis does in his case. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn about our wonderful Essex Feta. If you have any more questions, please do not hesitate to reach out at racheljewel@essexcheese.com.